Here's Golf to Go with Frank LaRosa.
Peter Jacobsen is a professional golfer and commentator on NBC and Golf Channel, and he played on both the PGA Tour and Champions Tour, winning 7 times on the PGA Tour and twice on Champions Tour, and both of those wins were majors. He was selected to represent his country twice on 2 Ryder Cup teams. He's one of golf's most colorful personalities, making him one of the more popular players with fans. And he's a friend. And so I welcome Peter to People Who Play the Game. Thanks for being here, Peter.
Great, Frank. Great to see you. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Yeah, I haven't been traveling and hanging out with Furyk and Mickelson and all those people like you just mentioned. But for someone that's in so many places and seemingly all at the same time, how do you keep track of your schedule?
It's funny you say that. My wife goes crazy. She just says, I don't know how you do what you do. But to me, it's all within the game of golf. I know it involves a lot of travel, but unfortunately with PGA Tour, we don't play a lot of home games. It is a huge bonus when you're Jim Furyk, for example, last week playing in your own event, sleeping in your own bed, trying to win your own tournament. It just never happened. So we are road warriors, put it that way. And I'm real old school. I have a little notebook, calendar, daytimers that I keep track of everything, including this Zoom call with you, Frank, including the Langley we've done the last couple of years together. So even though I'm very old school, I am pretty detail oriented, but we have to be as tour players.
Sure. How many years you been doing this now, Peter? When did you first get on tour?
I came to the Q School in 1976, which is a long time ago.
Yeah.
My first tour event, ironically, was my favorite event, the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am, which back then was the Crosby Clambake. My family, growing up in Portland, Oregon, we used to drive down to play Pebble every spring break for us in when I was in grade school and high school. So Pebble Beach became like a second home to me. So it was so ironic when I first qualified for my very first PGA Tour event at Pebble Beach. I made the cut, and for me to have a chance to go back years later, like 20 years later, and win the AT&T at Pebble Beach, playing with Jack Lemmon, playing with Clint Eastwood, it was a dream come true. But for me, it's been 45 years, Frank. This is my 45th year of not only marriage. My wife's out right now taking a exercise walk. She'll probably walk in here any moment, try to stay out of the way of the camera. But 45 years on the PGA Tour, and as you know, time goes so fast. I feel like it was just a few years ago I started as a rookie.
Congratulations on all of that. As I mentioned in the introduction, you certainly have become, and for the most part, I think always were, a favorite. Your personality just is very engaging, and I think you and I talked once before. You recognized from Arnold Palmer that was the way to be with fans, and you've certainly taken up that banner as well.
Funny, I was talking about the AT&T. The first time I ever met Arnold and played with Arnold was right after I Monday qualified for the AT&T, the Pebble Beach Crosby Clambake in 76. I played at Old Del Monte on a Monday qualifier, and I made it. And I wanted to play a few practice holes. So I ran out to Monterey Peninsula Country Club where we were playing the event, one of the courses in the rotation. And who did I get to play 3 holes with? Arnold Palmer. Totally out of the blue. I had no idea. I cut in front of him, ironically enough. I didn't know I was cutting in front of anybody. I looked back and there was nobody behind us. So I teed off and boom, here comes Arnold and his group. And they said, would you play in with us? Which I did. And I was so fortunate along the way to get thrown in with a lot of events that Arnold did, exhibitions and pro-ams. And we eventually partnered together in a lot of events, the Fred Meyer Challenge, the Shark Shootout, CBS Charity Classic. And he taught me so many things. I like people anyway. I'm a people person. I really like to engage with people. But Arnold said, look, anytime you have a chance on a golf course, when you're playing, you represent golf, you represent the PGA Tour. So try to reach out and bring the people outside the ropes, inside the ropes with you, not actually figuratively. You
Sure.
just want to try to bring them in spiritually. And I always did that. And so many times Arnold and I would be playing together and we'd tee off on a hole and he'd see a big group of people sitting on the side of the fairway. And he'd say, let's go talk to these people as we walk down the fairway to our tee shots. So we'd walk over, we engage. Hey, how you doing? Good to see you. Somebody may have a logo on their shirt of a golf course that Arnold may have designed. So Arnold would find some common denominator, talk with them, and walk away 3-4 minutes later. And those fans felt like they just talked to the Pope. And that's how Arnold made everybody feel. And pretty amazing that an icon in the game had that type of humanity about it. We don't see that very often, whether it's Hollywood actors or famous athletes. But when you have a guy like Arnold Palmer could just walk up to you and talk to you out of the blue, that's pretty special.
You know, you mentioned the Langley, which we're both involved in, named after Jim Langley, the former head professional at Cypress Point, and it's a fundraiser for the Northern California PGA Foundation. And you know, you've been around about 4 years now with that event, but I see the same quality in you. I mean, everybody knows Peter Jacobsen is the host of the event, but you walk up with your hand out and you say, "Hi, I'm Peter. Nice to meet you." And I think people are just, you know, enthralled with that. They appreciate the humanity and the humility that you bring.
Well, it's nice of you to say, Frank. I learned from the best. I learned from Arnold. I never feel like I walk into a room of strangers, especially in the world of golf.
Yeah.
I feel like if I am in the room and everybody around is there because of golf, we're all brothers. We're all neighbors. We all love the same thing, the game of golf. We all hit good shots. We all hit bad shots from time to time. But I'm more than willing to talk to you or anybody in the game of golf about your game. And because we all share that love of the game. And as a result, when I go do an event like the Langley with you and with everybody that involved with the event, it really lifts me up. It makes me feel good. It empowers me because I know I'm entering into a group that love the game of golf like I do. So there's no uncomfortable feeling. I'm never going to be one to walk into a room and go hide. I'm going to find you. I'm going to find Cherie. I'm going to find Mike. I'm going to find Len. I'm going to find anybody that I know. And let's go meet our guests. Let's go introduce more people to the Jim Langley scholarship, to Jim Langley's vision. And it's fun to be able to do that.
You know, let's go back to the beginning here and just kind of get a little piece of how you got into the game. Who put a club in your hand the first time?
My dad, my father. A lot of people my age, and I'm 60, almost 68 now. I was so fortunate. I had the opportunity to play golf because my mom and dad played golf. And that's the one advantage that I've had. And I think a lot of people have in the game. When you've got a mom and dad or an uncle or somebody in the game that can teach you or put that club in your hand, you're off to a good start. I did learn the game though, caddying. And that's the other thing that we've kind of lost. Yeah. A lot of the clubs now have cart programs, which I get. It's a revenue stream that adds to the bottom line of the club. And I can't argue against that. But the one thing I learned about the game was caddying, and that was my dad. He wanted me to learn the game from the hole out, not the first tee to the first green. He wanted me to learn about replacing divots and repairing ball marks and tending the flag and doing yardage. And I would either single or double bag. And you wouldn't make a lot of money. It was like $5 a bag. But I learned about the respect of the game. I learned about the etiquette of the game, and I learned about the speed of the game. We need to play in an expeditious manner. Let's go. And that's the one knock on the game is it takes too much time, but it really doesn't have to. Pick a club, hit it, and let's go.
Yeah. You mentioned growing up in the Northwest, and what's really exciting about the fact that your dad put a club in your hand, your dad played with you too. I mean, your whole family, as you said, would come down to the Monterey Peninsula and play together. What a great way to spend some summers, huh?
We would rent a house in Pacific Grove, and we would use that as our base of operation. And this is back, Frank, when you could play at Pebble Beach and carry your own bag. There weren't carts, there weren't cart paths. You could actually get out, carry your bag. I don't know what it cost because I didn't pay for it, but we would play 36 holes a day.
Wow.
18 at Pebble and 18 at Spyglass, or 18 at Old Del Monte, 18 at Corral de Tierra. And we would have the occasion to play Cypress Point. My dad knew quite a few members, so we had the chance to play Cypress. So I think, as all kids do, we take things like that for granted. But as I look back on that, that was really a founding moment for me in the game. I had the opportunity to play some of the greatest golf courses, recognized great golf courses in the top 100 in Pebble Beach, Cypress Point, Spyglass Hill. And I really had a chance to cut my teeth on those golf courses. And I think it made me appreciate not only how lucky I was, but how great those courses and those facilities are.
Imagine standing on the tee when you play those courses today just brings back incredible memories of youth and family.
It really does. And that's the one thing when people say to me, what does golf mean to you? Golf to me means family, because it was always mom, dad, David, Peter, Paul, and Susan. And we were all pretty good. We had a combined handicap at one point, I think of 24. There were 6 of them.
That's pretty good.
So we were all pretty good, highly competitive, I guess, which attests to my dad's ability to teach, because my mom went on to win 15 club championships in Portland. My brothers won a lot of club championships. I never played in club championships because I turned pro right out of college and went on to the tour. But my younger brother and sister were also excellent players, but it was all family. We would compete to see who would pick where we had dinner that night when we were out playing tournaments on the road, and especially down in Monterey.
What was you mentioned you got to the tour early. What do you remember from that first time, the first time you put a peg on the ground as a professional?
When I first went out there, I was so excited to go play for my living. But once I got out there, I realized I had no idea what I was doing. The hardest part of playing the tour is getting from the 18th green to the first tee the next morning. The easiest part is from the first tee to the 18th green. You play golf. You play 18 holes of golf. I go play with you in a pro-am, or I go play with Arnold Palmer or Jay Haas or Fred Couples in a tournament. But the most confusing part and the most difficult part is when you get done with your round of golf that night. Now you've got to figure out where you're going to go eat, where your hotel is. What do? You need to fill your time in with working out. You need to stay away from booze and drugs and all of the things that can take you away from competing. And fortunately, I was pretty good in that way, but still playing the tour and learning how to play. I realized that I really didn't know how to play that well, competitive golf. My short game wasn't very good. I was a pretty reliable ball striker, but I had to work on my short game to become a better chipper, putter, bunker player, everything to win. And it took me 4 years until I won on tour, but I learned a lot. I spent a lot of time working on my game, whether I was on the road or whether I was at home, because I had a lot to learn.
You obviously you and Jack Lemmon were like every famous duo that's ever been. And in those years of you playing the AT&T, I know you've got lots of stories. What was Jack Lemmon like? Jack
Lemmon was exactly as you saw him. There was no pretense. Anybody that knew Jack on screen or off screen knew that he was authentic. As I've always said, Jack won Academy Awards, and he could make you laugh in a movie and he could make you cry in a movie. And that's how he was. One of the cool things about Jack, he was actually a pretty good player. First of all, he was a good golfer. He just didn't have the competitive ability to get the ball in the hole when he needed it. We came close to making the cut a few times, but when it came down to that crucial chip or that putt, he just couldn't do it. And I think the most difficult time for him was when I won the tournament as an individual, but we missed the cut, the 3-round cut. The tournament, as you know, is 4 days.
Mm-hmm.
And not only are we playing as a team, but I'm playing as an individual. I won the tournament, but we missed the cut. And if you think about that, that is a level of incompetency by your player that may be the worst thing you've ever heard. And Jack knew that. And he always said I would trade Academy Awards to have played on Sunday. He never did. He came out when I won after we missed the cut. He walked with me when I won that tournament in 95. So that was a huge thrill. And then to get the trophy on 18 green from Clint was just added to the experience. But Jack Lemmon he'd always stay at the lodge. I couldn't afford to stay at the lodge, but we'd always have dinner together somewhere in the tap room or in the lodge somewhere. And then he'd want to go take a walk. And we would walk around Pebble Beach, the grounds. And he didn't have any security guards. There was no hiding from the general public. This is Jack Lemmon. This is one of the most famous actors in the world, walking out, talking to people. People would stop him, introduce themselves. Jack would sign something for them, but he would interact them on a very normal, just normal way of being. And I would step back and I would watch Jack interact with people, much like Arnold Palmer would interact. He never met a stranger. Everybody was a friend. And I learned a lot from that. I've said many times, the 3 people I've learned so much from are my father, Arnold Palmer, and Jack Lemmon, on how to treat people and just being with Jack. And I think you would hear that from Clint Eastwood or anybody that knew Jack, players, Jack Nicklaus, Arnold Palmer. You would hear the same thing, that Jack Lemmon was as real a person as they came.
You mentioned Clint Eastwood and Arnold Palmer and AT&T and Pebble Beach, and all of that just kind of keeps mixing up now that Clint Eastwood is now an owner of Pebble Beach along with the late Arnold Palmer, his estate certainly, but it all feels like this was all meant to be with you a long time ago, Peter.
Well, you're right, Frank. It really does. And I've said this before, and I will say this until my last breath. The AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am is the most important tournament on the PGA Tour schedule. Where do you have the chance to interact with all of the corporate sponsors that lead tournaments on the PGA Tour? And to spend 6 hours a day with the CEOs or the executive VPs of these corporations that sponsor our tour, it's invaluable. And I think every player on tour, from Tiger Woods to Phil Mickelson to Jim Furyk to Stricker, I don't care. If you're eligible, you should be playing. And if you aren't playing, the commissioner, I know you can't do this, but the commissioner should make that a designated tournament, because you as a player, you may partner with a corporate CEO of, say, Sony. And how do you know that you're not going to win the Sony Open in Hawaii somewhere down the road in your career? That only enhances the opportunity for corporations to continue to be involved with the PGA Tour, which is the finest professional sports organization in the world today. PGA Tour understands what it means to the communities we play in and the charities we support, and to the players. We're obviously always trying to do what we can for the players because it's a players' organization, but the AT&T is the most important event. And you're right, growing up in Portland, spending time at Pebble Beach with my family, getting to know so many people, Peter Ueberroth, Sam Reeves, Steve John, Ollie Nutt, Clint Eastwood, Jack Lemmon, Bill Murray, on and on. All the people that I've met at Pebble Beach just has enhanced my life and enhanced my golf career to the nth degree. I can't emphasize that enough.
I guess if we make you commissioner for the day, I know what your first rule is going to be.
Yes, yeah, it's an easy one.
You actually won the U.S. Open in a movie. Well,
I did.
What was that experience like, being in Tin Cup?
It was so much fun to be able to be with Costner and Don Johnson on set, and all the other actors and actresses and all the extras and all the behind the scenes people. And I really didn't know what went into that until that movie. And now that I do television for NBC and Golf Channel, I've seen all the behind the scenes. When we're a broadcaster on the air, it's the easiest job. I put a headset on, I talk about a game of golf that I know and I love. But everybody behind the scenes, the camera operators, all of the administration that goes on, those are the real heroes and the people that make it work. But I didn't know all that when I got on the set down in Houston with all the other tour players, John Cook, Couples, Corey Pavin, Greg Stadler, Bruce Litsky, Tommy Armour III, Jerry Pate. When we got there and we saw what went into it, we realized how lucky we were just to tee it up with a caddy inside the ropes and go shoot a number. It was easy. When we spent time on set with Ron Shelton, the director, and Costner and Don Johnson, it was really fun and eye-opening.
Yeah.
But it was, and the other thing we learned was how tough being an actor is, because you could do 32 takes of a shot or a scene. I have to tell you this one story. There's one part in the movie where they had me make a putt and turn around and point back at Costner like, in your face, pal. Well, I told Ron Shelton, there's no way I would do that. I wouldn't do that. I don't think a tour player would do that. And Ron Shelton said, this isn't reality. This is the movies. Do it. So I did it. But I didn't know that the scene called for me to make like a 35-footer up over a ridge, down into the cup, turn and point back to Costner and say, in your face, pal. Well, I said to we were the second set because they had the first set on the tee with Costner and Don Johnson. So I said, you mean you want me to make this putt from 35 feet up over a ridge on cue? And the guy said, yeah, can you do that? I said, if I could do that, I'd own the studio. I would be the one sitting in the big chair directing this movie. I'd own the whole thing. So he said, well, where can you make it from? I said, well, maybe about 6-8 feet. He said, thought you were a pro golfer. I said, yeah, but pro golfers are real good from here, but not from 35 feet up over a ridge. So he said, let's give it a try. So I hit 10, 12 putts, and it's hot, and the extras are behind the camera, and they're like going, come on, what are we doing? So finally he said, okay, we moved to a spot. It was kind of straight in, right edge, and I practiced it a little bit, and I got it down, and he said, can we do that? I go, yeah. So I hit 3 or 4 until I finally made it, but that wasn't the only take. We must have done it 16, 50, 20 times. And the crowd had to go crazy, and I had to turn, and I had to point back at Costner, feeling like an idiot the whole time because I would never do that. But then we finally got it done, and I walked off the green. I was playing with Jerry Pate in the tournament, and we walked off the green, high-fiving everybody. And Jerry Pate's daughter Jenny wanted to be in the scene, so she was standing right there. So I high-fived Jenny, and that made the film too, which was fun. But yeah, being in a movie was quite a departure from what we normally do.
You know, listening to you mention the names as you went through that, you know, Litsky and Pate and I mean, these are incredible players that you know, we just obviously don't hear about anymore. And you know, and some of them have have gone on to have good lives. Some of them, have had the same kinds of issues that other of us do. But you know, is it possible to kind of describe how you all feel as a group? Going out, being at these tournaments all the time, and knowing that your job is to go out and beat your friends the next day.
Well, let me put it to you this way. Playing the tour, being professional golfers is what we do. It's not who we are. And I think that we are a big traveling family out on tour. When I think of the guys that I started with, Jay Haas, D.A. Weibring, Brad Faxon, Fred Couples, Bill Rogers, Bruce Litsky, Jerry Pate, we all bonded pretty quickly through competition. Yes, we're all trying to beat each other, but at the same time, we're all pulling for each other because you spend so much time together, you get to know their families, their wives.
Sure.
When we first started, it was just wives. Then it was the firstborn, the secondborn, the thirdborn. Now, as we get older, we now know their kids, their kids' husbands or wives, and their grandkids. I think of Tracy Stewart. Payne Stewart was one of my really close pals. We lost him, as you know, in that tragic plane crash. But I was just at the Payne Stewart Award when Justin Rose was honored. And I saw Tracy and I saw their children, Chelsea and Aaron, who were babies when we played, when Payne was alive and competing. And now I've met Aaron's wife and Chelsea's husband and 2 kids. So golf is what we do. The game shapes who we are. But whether it's, for example, Bruce Litsky, who we lost a couple of years ago, and Bruce Fleischer, another close friend who played the tour forever, we just lost him. Arnold Palmer, who we lost 5 years ago. So those memories and those relationships last. But again, golf's what we do. It's not who we are.
And not unlike truck drivers or doctors or whatever, that's what they do. But all of us need a little respite now and then. And for you, part of it was you mentioned Payne was your band, Jake Trout and the Flounders. How did that come about, and where'd the name come from?
Well, the then Commissioner Dean Beeman knew that we played music. I played guitar, Mark Lai played guitar, Larry Rinker played guitar, and Payne played harmonica. And we used to just hang out and play a little bit. And Dean Beeman said, would you guys put together a little band for the Players Championship Players Dinner? So we did. And I didn't have any plans on being the singer because I can't sing, but none of the other guys wanted to sing. So they pushed me out there. So that's really how it was formed. Rinker left the band after a couple of years. He had better things to do. But we progressed, and we did 2 records, Frank, that are the great memories still live on iTunes and Spotify. You can find our music. And because golf is such a wide-ranging sport, we ended up having the chance to play and record on our record with Hall of Fame musicians like Huey Lewis and Darius Rucker,
oh, wow.
Glenn Fry of the Eagles, Stephen Stills, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, Graham Nash, REO Speedwagon, Darius Rucker. We had the chance to record, and we did. Our music reflects our relationship with these Hall of Fame musicians, but we also stole a little bit from them. We took their music and I rewrote the lyrics to be golf lyrics. And if anybody watching this or listening to this has not heard our music, I encourage you to go on iTunes and get a couple of songs, simply because of the words and the lyrics. I can't sing, and I apologize right now for my voice, but they're famous songs that you know. They're legendary songs by these legendary musicians, and it was so much fun. I remember stories of sitting in the recording studio with Payne and Mark, and we would look at each other and we would laugh. How the heck are we here with Stephen Stills, Glenn Fry, Alice Cooper, and Graham Nash?
Yeah.
How did we get here? All through the game of golf. So again, the game of golf is a great connector. It brings people from all walks of life together. And that culminated for us in the Jake Trout and the Flounders experiment, which turned out to be something pretty cool.
You know, as you go through life, it seems to me you kind of mentioned this earlier. You're a people person, and you enjoy making them happy and making them smile. And you were known for a long time for doing impressions of your fellow golfers, which always got a huge laugh. You know, I remember the golf balls in the shirt for the walrus, but where did that come about? You know, that was pretty interesting at the time.
When I was a kid, my father obviously loved the game of golf, and the only golf on TV was the CBS Golf Classic and Shell's Wonderful World of Golf. And we used to watch that with my dad because we had one TV in the house and it was on whatever channel my dad wanted to watch. He might let us watch Gilligan's Island and Batman, but we watched golf and NFL football. And as a result, I used to love to watch Palmer with the way that he would follow through, and Trevino and Gary Player, how buttoned up and precise he was. I just started impersonating those players on the range, and I was really inspired by Billy Harmon. You know, Claude Harmon's four sons, Craig, Billy, Dick, and Butch. Butch probably the most famous. We were family friends with the Harmons because Dick was really one of my first mentors up at Waverly Country Club in Portland, Oregon, where I grew up. And as a result, I met Billy, and Billy used to do the impressions as well. So I was inspired by Billy, and I took that on the tour. I did that in college, and then I did it on the tour, and it just kind of blossomed and just grew into something that became pretty cool for me, because I would do clinics early on tour, and when I wasn't exempt, I would get an exemption to be able to play in the tournament without Monday qualifying. And D.A. Weibring and I would go do these clinics, and it really helped me to progress, not only with tournament directors, but with my relationship with the other players. The other players knew we were just having some fun, but whether it was Arnold or Jack or Gary Player or Stadler you mentioned, or Johnny Miller or Lee Trevino, it was always done in fun, and it brought some humor to the tour and a bit of a different way to look at it.
Yeah, I bet some thought, how come he's not doing me?
Well, a lot of the times, most of the kids today have these perfect golf swings that have been born out of video cameras and the knowledge of the swing, where the club should be at the top and at impact and on the follow through. Don't forget, a lot of the players, when I was growing up watching them, the Gay Brewers, the Miller Barbers, the Lee Trevinos, there were no video cameras. You just went out, and as Ben Hogan famously said one time, you had to dig in out of the dirt. You had to learn what you would do to make the ball do what you wanted it to do. Because golf's not a sport. Golf's an art form. To make the ball curve in the air, that's art. But nowadays with video cameras, everybody looks the same, kind of. I'm not putting them down at all. It's just a different era than when in the Jack Nicklaus era. But again, I don't do it anymore because none of the golf fans today know who Miller Barber is. They know Trevino, but they don't know his swing. They know Arnold Palmer. A lot of kids today think of Arnold Palmer as a drink, not a famous golf pro.
Yeah. You spend a lot of time with NBC and the Golf Channel. How would you describe your approach to kind of letting us viewers know what's going on?
Well, I would say I'm a lot less Johnny Miller, but Johnny, it gives you an insight into how people think on the golf course by how they broadcast. And knowing Johnny Miller, Johnny was one of my great mentors growing up in the game, along with Arnold. And Johnny was always pretty tough on himself. And that's how we broadcast. I don't broadcast that way because I'm not that tough on myself. I try to look for the glass being half full. I try to look for the next opportunity. And I think that's how I broadcast. If I watch Justin Rose hit a really bad shot, I might tell you why. Maybe it was the bad lie. Maybe it was a bad situation. Maybe the weather, it might be raining and his grip is wet. But no matter where the golf ball ends up, I always look at the next shot. What's the opportunity for him to make a great save or to get it up and down to make a birdie or whatever it may be? So I'm always looking the next shot. What's the next opportunity? And I think some broadcasters focus on why that happened. What happened with that swing? What happened with that shot? And to me, I'll analyze the swing, but let's be honest, Frank, if you're watching Justin Rose make a swing and it looks pretty darn good and it goes dead left, it's really hard to pick up why that happened. And I think sometimes it's a little disingenuous when you're broadcasting and a player makes a swing and you can go, oh, look at that. His right earlobe twisted in the downswing. That's why he hit it out of bounds. Yeah. It's so hard, even with slow motion cameras, to know why a golf ball went offline. So I will analyze the swing, but I try to stay away from trying to pick out and be critical of why that happened. Again, as Johnny infamously used the word choke, and it's a very descriptive word, but it's also a bit shocking. When he first said it, oh, this is a shot you can choke on. Ironically, the first time he ever used it was when I was hitting a shot at the Bob Hope Classic in Palm Springs. It was Johnny's first broadcast.
Oh my gosh.
And I had a 3-iron off a downhill lie to the 18th green over water. I had to hit it on the green and 2-putt for a birdie to win. And Johnny said on the broadcast, wow, this is a tough swing. This is a real easy shot to choke on. And he was right. It was a crossing wind, downhill lie, long iron, not a very lofted club, but I hit a really good shot. And everybody went crazy that he used the word choke. He didn't say the word choke about me.
Right.
He said the situation. And he would continue to use the word choke in his broadcast. I thought it was entertaining. And that's just the way that he said it, the way he looked at it. I really loved working with Johnny. He and his wife, Linda, are just amazing people. And I miss seeing him on a regular basis, whether it was playing or doing television.
Yeah, I would agree. And many people's opinions are based on, the choke or whatever it was that Johnny said. And boy, just meeting him as a person, he's a pretty sweet man.
Yeah, he is.
I don't want to take up too much more of your time, Peter. I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed this, but of all of the things you've done, and you're a Renaissance man, and all of the things that you've done, is there one that gives you the most satisfaction, or as you look back on your life, the one thing that makes you most proud?
Well, that's a hard question. I would say that just being a contributor to the game, as you said, I've been so lucky to do a lot of things. There aren't many pro golfers that have done a rock and roll band and been in movies. And I've written a couple of books, again, not about me, about the tour. They're called Buried Lies and Embedded Ball, because what else is a buried lie but an embedded ball? I just think trying to be being a contributor, a storyteller. I wasn't the greatest player. I wasn't the worst player. I had my time on tour. For me to be able to have played in the Nicklaus era and the Tiger Woods era, to be able to do television and to be able to contribute and meet so many wonderful people and I think give back. That's the one thing that PGA Tour and all of us in golf recognize is it's so important to take care of the charities and the communities and the charities that are involved in these communities where we play. But that's probably the most important thing, because when I'm dead and gone and buried, there's going to be a lot more people come along. But most important thing is that we remember how great the game of golf is, and we all continue to contribute and give back, make the game better than how we found it.
Well, you've certainly done that throughout your life, Peter, and you continue to do it. And you're an inspiration to so many. And like Arnold, whom you love so much, when you see people and they smile and they remember Peter Jacobsen smiled at me. That's a memory that will be with him forever. You're a good man. I appreciate your time so much, and I'll look forward to seeing you next August at the next Langley.
Well, great, Frank. Thanks for having me on, and I appreciate all that you do. And we will see you soon.
Look forward to it. Best to your family.